So one of the big questions in biology, it's been on people's minds for a very long time, is why are there so many types of living things in the world? Why are there dolphins and cabbages and broccoli and watermelons and earthworms and eels and flamingos and hippopotamuses and gorillas and bacteria and fungi and viruses and oak trees, and there's just so many different kinds of living things. In fact, we don't know how many there are. There's so many that we haven't found them all yet. It's an unremarkable thing to discover a new living species, in a way. But the real question is, how do they arise? What causes this variety to exist? And this is a question that was pursued by a couple of biologists named Rosemary and Peter Grant. They did their work on a tiny little island. So I'd like you to picture a tiny little island in the Pacific Ocean, almost like those desert islands you might see in a cartoon. This is an island. It's a real place, very, very small, very steep. It's the top of a volcano. When Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands, he described them as ugly and lifeless. And this island is pretty rocky and lifeless, and that was actually an advantage for the Grants, because ordinarily there's so many different things happening all together in the same place that it can be difficult to really understand what's causing what, who's doing what, why things are occurring. But they chose this island because there was so little there that maybe they had a better chance of discovering how, for example, the birds on this island might be changing over time, which is what they did. So every year, for 6 months of the year, they came to the island, hopped off a boat without it docking. There's not a single place to park a boat. The island is so steep and rocky, there's simply no landing spot. They would hop off the boat onto a tiny ledge and spend the next 6 months catching all of the birds on the island. And they would catch the birds and band the birds for identification and test the birds, sample their DNA, and they learned who was living on the island and exactly who was related to who, because they wanted to see what happens over time to a population like this. And what they found is, when it rained a lot, the plant life of the island was abundant, and there were small seeds that were more readily obtained by finches with small beaks. When it was dry, the most abundant food were these very woody, spiny, tough-to-crack seeds that were the preferred food of finches with large beaks. So they watched the rain fall, and they watched the plants bloom, and they watched the bird species change over time. They watched evolution occurring in front of their eyes. They saw that the large-billed birds became more numerous in the years following a drought, and the small-billed birds became more numerous in the years following heavy rain because of changes in their food supply. So this was something that Darwin was never able to do, to see evolution right in front of his eyes in a natural population. But the Grants saw it, and it was a big deal, and it's been a big deal for a long time. They've been well-recognized scientists. They were the subject of a Pulitzer Prize-winning book. They were the winners of the Kyoto Prize, a $500,000 prize for biology. And that didn't stop them. They kept going. For 6 months of every year, they would go back to the island, and they ended up traveling and studying the birds for over 40 years. And their persistence was, of course, I think, generated by their curiosity and by how much they enjoyed continuing to ask the questions. Although they had their answer. Yes, evolution is occurring. It's occurring quickly in front of our eyes. Their curiosity and their persistence and their diligence have all paid off so handsomely for scientists and science, and for everyone now to benefit.